NMH at 1 is one place to catch the headlines and news making waves across Namibia, Africa and the globe. I am Aina Raizakoyo, and here is what to expect in this lunch hour. Higher Education Minister praises new $24 million Namibian VTC Center in Gobabis. Movement to Farm 37 will start within 6 months, says Walvis Bay Mayor. At least 174 people died at an Indonesian football stadium when thousands of angry home fans invaded the pitch. This is NMH at 1. Stay with us. In today's midday news, the Cancer Association of Namibia, in collaboration with Sanlam Namibia, hosted a lunch on yesterday at the Venture Country Club and Resort. The event was aimed at raising money for cancer patients throughout the month of October. The event was headlined by South African singer Sarah Teron. Please do remember to engage with these stories on social media as we share community news from across the country on the other side of this short break in our visual news segment.
Active Kids is an initiative under the MyZone brand that aims to provide exciting and easy activities and fun stories. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact zone@synergy.com.na. Active Kids, where we actively invest in your future.
In our visual news this afternoon, Minister of Higher Education, Training and Innovation, Itakanji Murangi, commended the brand new $24 million VTC Center in Gobabis. She says that the continued support from the German government is highly valued. GIZ, in partnership with Namibia Training Authority, inaugurated the facility this morning with German Federation government in attendance with workshops for automotive, electric and welding.
Currently, you'll find graduates, first degree, master's level. Of course, we are having scores now of jobs who are qualified people. Within TVET, I can comfortably say that it is within the past maybe 15 or less than that we really as a government say, no, our industrialization is not moving. Our community regional development, our own factories, manufacturing is not moving. What is the problem? What is the challenge? And as government, we realize that we need to really focus on TVET. And it's not only focusing on TVET, but actually making sure that the institutions that are driving TVET, they have standardized curriculum, they have standards to follow, they have well-trained instructors, and indeed also they have proper industry where they can place their trainees. But now, in many of those segments that I have alluded to, some of them we are still lacking. Yes, we managed to come up with a curriculum that you can say it typifies Namibia's TVET system, but there are flaws. We still have to do more.
The mayor of Walvis Bay, Trevino Forbes, stated that the movement to Farm 37 will start within 6 months. He also touched on the number of burning issues plaguing the harbour town. Let's have a look.
I would like to start with the most frequently asked questions during these public meetings. Farm 37 was on top of the list. Residents want to know, when are we moving to Farm 37? How are we going to do it? What services will be available for those being relocated? And most importantly, who is being moved there. Fellow councillors and administration, we committed to the residents of this town that within 6 months there will be a movement towards Farm 37. Let's get busy with the logistical aspects of this project. Come March or April 2023, I do not want to hear excuses, just progress and feedback. With regards to the congestion issues, mostly in Tutaleni, this council, together with administration, will be working on an action plan on the way forward in decongesting. From my understanding, the current sizes of houses in Tutaleni do not meet the requirements, and the decongesting to Tutaleni was due to was due to a council resolution. This council will look into these matters as a matter of urgency. Another burning issue was that Walvis Bay has nothing going on in terms of youth development. It was stated by the Office of the Urban Constituency. It was stated that the Office of the Urban Constituency is sitting on a budget for youth development, but the community is not seeing anything in this regard. I would like to clarify that there is no such budget under the Urban Constituency Council. The only budget allocated in terms of the constituency is the Constituency Development Fund, which the constituency office allocated to various community projects, the SMEs. Although Council already resolved the construction of 2 vocational centres, we must apply pressure for the commencement of the construction processes. We are going through a phase where teenage pregnancy as well as drug and alcohol abuse amongst the youth is an all-time high in our town. It is our core responsibility to create an environment that is conducive for youth development projects and programs to engage the youth to better spend their productive years constructively. Another burning issue is the condition of our sewer and road infrastructure. We are aware that as a council, the current administration, we inherited a town that was planned in a manner and the infrastructure is aging. As council, we will engage with central government to prioritize the replacement of aging infrastructure. Lastly, the cleanliness of our town is an issue that needs to be addressed as a matter of urgency. This needs to be done by both council as well as the residents. However, council must take the lead in this. As it has been said, prevention is better than cure. So let's keep our town clean.
Stick around for news headlining Namibia's daily print publication as we head over to the newspaper review segment.
Africa Good Morning is a current affairs program that brings you the latest from Southern Africa and beyond. News, economics, sport, weather, interviews, and so much more. For any advertising or news-related queries, contact agm@synergy.com.na. Africa Good Morning, bringing Africa to you.
In our newspaper review, Namibian Sun informs on its front page that almost half of men who have sex with other men, sex workers and transgenders have a primary sexual partner, but a recent report found that these key populations have an average turnover of 9 sexual partners over the previous 12 months. According to the HIV risk hotspot mapping and key population size estimation report, on average, 6 in 10 MSM and 7 in 10 transgender people have received money in exchange for sex during the past 12 months. In another story, the paper reports that 18 months after his appointment as CEO of the Namibia Industrial Development Agency, Miche Goamab is yet to be confirmed in the role after his contract was extended 3 times. in our next story. Now, according to the page 3 of the Namibian Sun, the left wing of the Cessna 210 of the Scenic Air that crashed on Impalila Island on the 30th of August hit a tree next to the Zambezi River after takeoff and hit the water with the right wing first. After that, the plane's nose hit the water with such force that the engine and the propeller broke off the fuselage. This is evident from the preliminary investigation reported by the Directorate of Aircraft Accidents Investigation in Works and Transport Ministry that was released last week. According to the report, shortly after taking off with her 4 passengers from the airport on the island, the 21-year-old pilot Nicole Mani tilted the plane to the left. A young woman of Windhoek whose left hip was dislocated on her pelvic broken during the birth of a child in the state hospital alleges that she was also slapped by the nurses in her face. Whitney Sinner's baby was born after a traumatic birth in the state hospital at Otjiwarongo on the 16th of February 2019. Part of the map of Windhoek, which includes the area where Andre Hekmeier was shot in his vehicle, was found in the room of the guest house in which was rented by the person accused of his murder. This specific part was allegedly torn off a part of a bigger map in the capital. Today, the Allgemeine Zeitung reports on its front page with an article about the response of the Minister of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform, Master Karl Schleitman, who responded to questions from Popular Democratic Movement parliamentarian Reginald Diergaard. According to Schleitman, Namibia is dependent on aquifers to a degree where the country can ill afford to place a risk on such areas. The question and answers were triggered by the ongoing exploration of uranium in the Stempriet Artisan Basin in Kalahari. The minister said, "Our stance is that in fact we should not allow any polluting activities in aquifers that are declared water reserves, meaning an aquifer that is of extraordinary importance to us. There are a number of aquifers on which we are so dependent that we do not want to take the risk of any activity that either destroys the aquifer, leaks it, or pollutes it." On its page 3, the Allgemeine Zeitung today looks at the annual general meeting, which was conducted by the Namibia Scientific Society, in which not only saw the introduction of the committee, including the number of fresh and especially young faces, but also saw Miss Valtrud Frisk handing the reins over to Miss Ruto Moldizio, who will now manage the NSS. Fritz will not be lost to the NSS as she will continue to be involved in the Windhoek Bureau, but she will not act as an NSS manager any longer. After the break, we return with more news from the Namibian newspaper.
AgriMonitor is jou weeklikse landboukundige program wat jou die jongste nuus in die landbouverwante bedryf en onderwerpe wat daaraan gekoppel is bring. Vir enige advertensie of nuusverwante navraag, kontak agrimonitor@synergy.com.na.
Let's continue with our newspaper review. The Namibian newspaper updates on the GIPF fraud case in which the Prosecutor General Martha Imwalwa has had a freeze put on the bank account and 2 investment accounts holding close to 5 million Namibian dollars allegedly stolen from the government institution pension fund. The accounts over which Imalwa has obtained a property preservation order in terms of the Prevention of Organized Crime Act are held in the name of GIPF employee Martin Eugene Smith, who is in police custody on criminal charges involving close to 18 million Namibian dollars allegedly stolen from GIPF. In its lead story, the SWAPO Party Youth Secretary Ephraim Nekongo says the party's youth wing is not a job-creating agency, adding that SWAPO candidates vying for top positions should not divide the youth. Parents and guardians of learners attending Ashipala Secondary School in Umsati region have threatened to close down the school if the government fails to construct hostel and ablution facilities by the 31st of December 2022. This story is reported on the Namibian newspaper's page 3, which further reports that parents and guardians along with teachers at the school marched to the office of the Education Inspector and Elim Constituency Office, where they handed over a petition read by the chairperson of the school board. 600 fishermen have been left jobless, reports New Era on its front page. The Kavema joint venture has accused the Namibia fishing industry and Fishermen Workers Union of being responsible for the resignation of over 600 fishermen. The fishermen have been employed since last year by the joint venture following a cabinet directive to re-employ over 1,000 fishermen in the industry as government's intervention after they lost their jobs due to an illegal strike in 2015. In a separate story, 2 politicians and an academic are set to compete for the position of Ovaherero Traditional Authority Paramount Chief. This is despite Muchandi Kachiwa having already been elected as the Ombara Ochitambi. Over the weekend, RDP President Mike Kavekotora, PDM leader McHenry Venani and academic Jose Rirwako were endorsed as contenders for the paramount chief position. Environment and Tourism Minister Pwamba Shifeta has encouraged conservancy communities to appoint honest, skilled and vetted people to manage conservancy funds to avoid theft. Credit uptake by the private sector to invest in strategic productive sectors of the economy is crucial in boosting economic growth. According to Simone Storm, despite perceived risk aversion amongst banks, it remains concerning that the data seems to suggest that most credit extensions are being used to finance consumption expenditures instead of financing productive investments. Now, the MTC has added 5 new sites to the National Telecommunications Network in the Ohangwena region. More about this billion-dollar project after the break.
In Business 7, you get news on current economic, financial, and business matters in Namibia. The weekly show features interviews with experts and in-depth analysis of burning issues in a way that caters for ordinary Namibians and business connoisseurs alike. For news-related or advertising queries, please contact b7@synergy.com.na.
In our economic news this afternoon, MTC has added 5 new sites to the National Telecommunications Network in Ohangwena region, bringing the total number of sites built as part of the 081 Everyone project in Ohangwena to 16. The 5 sites are all 3G enabled sites and went online at the start of September. At the launch of the project, Tim Ekanjo, MTC's Chief Human Capital Corporate and Marketing Officer, said MTC will connect underserviced areas to the network grid to improve connectivity, especially in rural areas. Ekanjo stressed that MTC is aware of ongoing requests for new sites and that these requests will always be considered on a merit and on case impact assessment in order to ensure network equity and fair distribution across the country. The billion-dollar project was launched in August 2017 with the aim of expanding MTC's network footprint and infrastructure and achieving close to 100% population network coverage through the rollout of 524 sites. The sites are being constructed by the Namibian companies. The project is currently in phase 3 and over 260 sites have been commissioned countrywide. In our next story, European Union member state and Namibian delegates last week discussed ways in which their partnership can be nourished to further enhance a return on investment. During her opening address, International Relations Minister Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah said that such dialogues underline the importance of multilateralism and bilateral cooperation. Nandi-Ndaitwah stressed that the member state should rest assured that their products will reach the market of 1.3 billion across the Southern African Development Community and the European expansion, and that expansion of European companies will be tariff-free. The session discussed a number of topics of shared and common interest ranging from Namibia-EU relations, peace and unity, climate change, trade and economic cooperation, amongst others. The delegation discussed the trade benefits and the impact of the AfCFTA on Namibia's strategic partnership on raw material and green hydrogen and the 2021-2027 multi-annual indicative program priority and calendar. Now, according to Sintila Antila, EU Ambassador of Namibia, the Economic Partnership Agreement Business Forum 2023 is already underway. She added that the EPA's implementation program will assist Namibia in reaping the fruits of trade integration and the AfCFTA. Now let's have a look at our economic indicators. The Namibian dollar is down in value against the euro but has increased in value when weighed against the British pound. Capricorn Investment Group prices are up by 0.40%, now trading for 11 Namibian dollars and 35 cents on the NSX. Namibia Breweries Limited stock prices are up by 0.01%, while SBN Holding stock prices have decreased. Brent crude oil is down in price, while these major commodities prices continue to increase. Burkina Faso's self-declared military leader has accepted a conditional resignation. This story and more coming up when we return with news from Africa.
Take a load off and tune into another episode of Brave Namibia as we take a look at both ordinary and extraordinary Namibians. Brave Namibia is broadcasted on NTV Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. and 1up2.com, as well as broadcasted on the following Facebook platforms on Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Republican, Allgemeine Zeitung, Namibian Sun, and all Namibia Media Holdings pages. For more information, contact the Brave team at brave@synergy.com.na. Brave Namibia, for the ordinary and extraordinary Namibians.
Let's have a look at the news from the African continent. We will later extend it to the rest of the globe. Burkina Faso self-declared military leader Ibrahim Traoré has accepted a conditional resignation offered by President Paul-Henri Damiba to avoid further violence after Friday's coup, religious and traditional leaders said yesterday. Now, according to the deal announced at the press conference, Traoré has agreed to 7 conditions, including a guarantee of Damiba's safety and the security of soldiers who backed him, and the honoring of promises made by the West African Regional Bloc to return to constitutional rule by July 2024. A close family member told Reuters that Damiba left the country on Sunday. Traoré said earlier that order was being restored after violent protests against the French embassy and days of fighting as his faction moved to topple the government. Splits have emerged within the army, with many soldiers appearing to seek Russian support as the influence of former colonial power France wanes. Traoré's team urged people to halt attack on the French embassy targeted by protesters after the officer said France had sheltered Damiba at the French military base in the West African country and that he was planning a counter-offensive. The French Foreign Ministry denied the base that they hosted Damiba on Friday. Now, Damiba also denied that he was hosted at the French base, saying that reports were a deliberate manipulation of public opinion. In our next story, Rahima Musa and Helen Joseph hospitals are relying on water tankers to keep their supply stable. Constant water power trips at the Renza Waters Zuckerbosch purification plant has resulted in pump station and reservoirs across Johannesburg being adversely affected. Johannesburg Water said supply at the Commando Road Meter, Rand Water Direct Feeds, Port Central and Soweto systems has been drastically reduced. This has left several Johannesburg water reservoirs and towers with critically low to empty water levels. Among these are critical customers Rahima Musa and Helen Joseph hospitals. Water is currently being provided via mobile tankers to sustain their supply. 2 weeks ago, the Health Professional Council of South Africa called on the government to exempt all hospitals from the intermittent bouts of load shedding. The council said hospitals in the country were buckling under pressure due to the various stages of power outages implemented by Eskom. This had created more strains on healthcare system already stretched too thin. Tankers are also being provided to other areas affected by low water levels. Consumers have been urged to reduce consumption immediately. In our next story, lawmakers in Somalia's breakaway region of Somaliland have extended President Musa Bihi Abdi's current term of office by 2 years ahead of its expiry date in November, the Senate chairman said on Saturday. The region's electoral body said that last month it had postponed a presidential election due in November to 2023 because of time and financial constraints, among other reasons. It was unclear whether that the poll has now been unscrapped or not. Salih bin Aden, who is the chairman, said that 72 members of the parliament voted on Saturday to extend Abdi's term by the 2-year period. One MP objected. In August, deadly protests by opposition supporters broke out in the region, with demonstrators demanding elections be held in November amid suspicions of President wanting to delay the poll and extend his term. There was no immediate reaction from the opposition to the parliament's extension of the presidential term. At least 174 people died at an Indonesian football stadium when thousands of angry home fans invaded the pitch. More on this story in our international news.
Careers Bistro focuses on the movers and shakers in the corporate world. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact Zone at synergy.com.na.
In our international news slot this afternoon, at least 174 people died at an Indonesian football stadium when thousands of angry home fans invaded the pitch and the police responded with tear gas that triggered a stampede. Authorities said yesterday the tragedy on Saturday night in the city of Malang, which also left 180 injured, was one of the world's deadliest sporting stadium disasters. Arena FC supporters at the Kanjuruhan Stadium stormed the pitch after their team lost 3-2 to the visiting team and bitter rivals Surabaya. Police, who described the arrest as a riot, said they tried to force the fans to return to the stands and fired tear gas after 2 officers were killed. Many of the victims were trampled or choked to death, according to the police. Now, at least 174 people died, East Java Deputy Governor Emil Dadak told broadcaster Kompas TV on Sunday afternoon, raising the toll from 129. Survivors described panicking spectators in a packed crowd as tear gas rained down on them. President Joko Widodo ordered an investigation into the tragedy, a safety review into the football matches, and directed the Country Football Association to suspend all matches until security improvements were completed. Images taken from inside the stadium during the stampede showed police firing huge amounts of tear gas and people climbing over the fences. People were carrying injured spectators through the chaos. Now, in our next story, Germany, France, Denmark, Spain, Italy, and Czech Republic have submitted proposal for the new European Union sanction against Iran for suppressing protests over women's rights, Spiegel magazine reported on Monday, citing sources. Now, the proposed sanctions targeted 16 people, organizations, and institutions primarily responsible for the clampdown on nationwide protests that were ignited by the death in custody of a young woman, the magazine added. Germany's foreign ministry was not immediately available for comment. Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock said on Monday that Tehran's suspension of protests was an expression of sheer fear of education and power of freedom and promised sanctions. The anti-government protests, which began at 22-year-old Masa Amini's funeral on the 17th of September in Cadiz, have spiraled into the biggest show of opposition to Iran's authority in years, with many calling for the end of more than 4 decades of Islamic clerical rule. Now, after the break, we return with local sports. Stay with us.
The My.NA Cars Show provides viewers with the best in-class cars content, engaging interviews, as well as a showcase of the latest cars-related news, products, and services. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact My.NA at synergy.com.na. My.NA Cars, more than just a ride.
In our local sports, Namibia's Helalia Johannes took second place in the Spa Grand Prix Challenge, which took place yesterday. Ethiopian Rana Tadunare won the race in 33 minutes and 22 seconds, while Johannes won the challenge in 2019, was second with the time of 34 minutes and 7 seconds, just ahead of the Ethiopian junior Salem Gebre, who finished in 34 minutes and 12 seconds. Johannes says she still has one series left on the 23rd of October. Christine Boma continues to distance herself from a South African-based Newton Sports Agency, even though the latter continue to state that the athlete is their client. Boma released a statement stating that she instructed her legal representative Francois Erasmus and partners to cancel the agency agreement between Newton Sports Agency and herself after months of correspondence proved fruitless. The head coach of the Brave Gladiators, Paulus Shipanga, believes the team will be able to showcase their talent more with a bit more time. This, he said after his side was defeated 2-1 by the Mares of Botswana. Now we take a look at international sports. Kenyan Amos Kipto marked his London Marathon debut with a decisive victory on Sunday as Ethiopian 23-year-old Yelemez Yelhawa became the youngest winner of the women's race despite falling in the closing miles. It was a maiden London victory when Yelhawa, in what was just a second marathon of his career. The 30-year-old Kipruto, the world bronze medalist in Doha in 2019, crossed the line in London in 2 hours, 4 minutes and 39 seconds after breaking away. Cricket Australia apologized to child sex abuse survivors on Monday and called for more action to address an appalling issue in the sport in the country. The sport's national body has joined a redress scheme for victims of institutional child sex abuse, but Cricket Australia chairman Lachlan Henderson urged the state organization to also sign up. Manchester United midfielder Christian Eriksen said that on Sunday 6-3 thrashing by Manchester City was far from acceptable, and that they had hallowed Guardiola's side to play their strength instead of imposing their own game. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be right back with highlights.
The Evening Review is a daily interview-based talk show that dissects and expounds on current affairs as they occur in Namibia. The show aims at reaching Namibians of all age groups who seek better understanding of the state of current affairs in the country. This show is broadcasted on NTV, 1up2.com, and cross-shared on the following Facebook platforms: Namibian Sun and Namibia Media Holdings. The Evening Review focuses on interviews, latest news, and up-to-the-minute current events. Contact Evening at synergy.com.na. Evening Review, unpacking today's pertinent issues.
If you're just watching NMH at 1, thank you very much for joining us. Here are the highlights. Burkina Faso self-declared military leader Captain Ibrahim Traoré has accepted conditional resignation offered by President Paul Damimba to avoid further violence after Friday's coup. At least 174 people died at an Indonesian football stadium when thousands of angry home fans invaded the pitch and police responded with tear gas that triggered a stampede. Namibia's Helalia Johannes took second place in the Spa Grand Prix Challenge. She still has one more series left on the 23rd of October. Those have been our highlights. Remember to tune in every weekday at 1 p.m. and spend your lunch hour with me, Ainaraiza Kweyo. And we will also bring you the news from across the whole country. Coming up next, let's have a look at Erongo Talk.
Hello viewers and welcome to another exciting episode of Erongo Talk. I'm your host Nico Nangolo and today we're here at the jetty in Walvis Bay where as per usual we bring you your latest news updates when weather died, and today we also chat with Palms for Lives Fund's National Coordinator Kingston Makoni, who talks about the second phase of COSDEF's Sun Youth Skill Training Program, which was recently launched in Swakopmund. So make sure to stay tuned. We'll be right back after the break. Now for our first story of the day, the opening ceremony for Bridging the Gap School Sports Development Program took place at the Venita Sports Field in Swakopmund on Saturday. This is the second time the initiative by Namibia's leading diamond mining company, Deb Marine, in partnership with Namibia School Sports Union, is being hosted. The event was first launched in 2019 but had to take a 2-year forced break from the local school sporting calendar due to COVID-19. The school sports program caters for schools from all 14 regions of the country, with over 700 learners in the under 15 and under 17 competing in football, netball and athletics disciplines. On the occasion, the Chief Executive Officer of Deb Marine Namibia, Otto Shikongo, emphasized that the private sector has a responsibility to assist government in the development of sport. We are sponsoring this competition to improve the sports among the youth at grassroots levels. This initiative helps the country identify future stars as well as give them a platform to shine. We are also using this platform to conduct a school outreach program through which we promote awareness of career opportunities within the marine diamond recovery sector, coupled as well as marine environmental awareness. And now for our second story of the day, the Development Bank of Namibia and Namibia Investment Promotion Board have formalized their cooperation with a memorandum of understanding signed on the 28th of September. The two development agencies have cooperated in the past, notably when DBN accompanied the Namibia Investment Promotion Board Note to Grow outreach program, during which DBN introduced its products of SMEs in 26 towns. Speaking about the need for cooperation, DBN CEO Martin Ikumbi said that the bank is a financing agency that is dependent on the demand of potential borrowers. Although DBN promotes its finance and associated services, the promotion of economic participation through enterprise activities is the specialist field of Namibia Investment Promotion Board. The MOU, which focuses on SMEs, harnesses the capacity of both agencies to further develop SMEs. Speaking about the need for interagency cooperations, it could be said that there are a couple of initiatives to develop, but these initiatives often replicate the work performed by others. And now for our third story of the day, the Namibia Revenue Agency has collected half of its targeted revenue for the 2022 and 2023 fiscal year and is on course to reach 50 billion Namibian dollars should economic performance remain consistent. This according to the agency, to the Revenue Agency's communications manager, Steven Ndorokaze, who said it had 50% of its targeted revenue collection in just 5 months. From the 1st of April to the 31st of August, NAMRA collected a net revenue amount of 25 billion Namibian dollars, which equates to around 50% of the annual target for the financial year. He was positive the agency would meet its revenue target for the fiscal year, which ends on the 31st of March 2023. Should the economy perform the way it has and even surpass the target set, should economic activity improve? The performance suggests that we could be on course to attain our set annual target. Everything else remains, if everything else remaining consistent. However, if the economic performance improves the coming months, it will most likely have a positive impact on the revenue collection, coupled with increased compliance by taxpayers and traders. Ndora Kazi said the revenue agency is expected to collect 50.3 billion Namibian dollars through the current financial year, he added. Now, if you want to read more on this or any of our other stories, you can check out our website. That's at www.tirongo.com.na. That's www.tirongo.com.na. Up next, we have our interview, so stay tuned. We'll be right back after the break.
Irongo Talk brings you community news in the Irongo region. Irongo Talk aims to reach coastal residents, keeping them updated on what's happening in their community. This show is broadcasted on NTV, 1up2.com, and cross-shared on the following Facebook platforms: Irongo, The Republican, Algemeine Zeitung, Namibian Sun, and Namibia Media Holdings. Irongo Talk focuses on community news, weather update, fishing report, helpful tips, as well as sport and entertainment. For news-related or advertising queries, contact Irongo Talk at synergy.com.na. Irongo Talk, our community, your news.
It is really an honor to be here today to witness the launch of the second phase of the Sun Youth Scholarship Program, which I would say it is a collaborative effort that involves Pounds for Life, the government of Namibia, in particular the Ministry of Gender, Equality, Poverty, Education and Social Welfare, and COSDEF. To us, as a Pounds for Life, this has been an exciting journey, as well as a challenging one, which started almost now 2 years. I still remember when we started the discussions with Mr. Miller, Mr. Nicholas about this war program. At times we would ask ourselves if we were not over-ambitious, because we were talking of 400 students, 500 students. And I still remember, which were at that time really, I would say, constructive input from different stakeholders to say, do you think this is a good idea to start with such a big number, considering the challenges that we have observed in the education of some youth in Namibia? But I would really want to thank Ms. Jeremula and the team, as well as Ms. Namandi and the team, because you said, no, let us go for it. And we started with 402 Sun Youth, and I'm happy to say 380 are still in the program today. And I think to everyone, thank you so much. And this encouraged our grant makers, when they saw the success of the first intake, to say, let us go with the second phase of this program. And now we have 327 youth again, going first through the bridging course and eventually articulating to the mainstream TVET system. But for us, the reason why we started this program, we realized that for the Sun youth in different communities, they should dream like any other youth in Namibia. They should dream beyond the horizons of their communities, beyond the walls of their houses. But one thing that we realized, for this to be successful, it was supposed to be a concerted effort between us, the government of Namibia, COSDEF, different development partners, the parents, and the communities. And I'm happy to say this has been the journey, and this is still the journey. Thank you, everyone, for that. I really want to take this opportunity to thank the Division for Marginalized Communities. Some people say it's very difficult to work with government, but for me it has been very, very easy. And thank you so much for making it so easier for us. Today we are saying we have 380. I still remember when we started the 400 students, how the development planners worked tirelessly in identifying these students, in bringing them, and at times driving in the middle of the night to different remote areas to pick these students and bring them to COSDEC centers for their initial registration. I know they are not here, but please, on behalf of Farms for Life, I would like to say, please, we thank them. Thank you very much for your effort.